Neville Goddard, 1965 lectures in praise of wisdom. April 23rd, 1965. Tonight's subject is in praise of wisdom. The Bible speaks of two entirely different types. The wisdom of this world, which they claim is foolishness in the eyes of God, and the wisdom of God, which is foolishness in the eyes of man. But the road to wisdom of God is the great secret of God. But the road to the wisdom of God. It's not through some initiation ceremony or philosophical instruction, but through the highest gift of the Spirit, which is love. Which this as your guide, you can't go wrong. With this as your guide, you can't go wrong. It is absolutely my testimonial and my experience, speaking totally from my entire life's experience. That was a very, very true paragraph. Wisdom in the scriptures is personified as a little child, and you will read it in the 8th chapter of the book of Proverbs, from the 22nd verse through the 36th. I was his possession before he brought forth anything, before the heavens were established, before the earth was established. I was beside him as a little child, and daily I was his delight, rejoicing in his inhabited world and rejoicing in the sons of men. Listen to me, my sons, and keep my ways. He who finds me finds life and obtains the favor of God. He who misses me injures himself. All who hate me love death. I could unpack that for an hour myself. That is a beautiful, beautiful piece of scripture right there. Let's move on. Now here is the personification of wisdom, a little child. And I'm sure he's going to do fine without me. You can just sense every bit of it. It's coming. We're told in Scripture, wisdom is justified by her children. Luke 7:35. So here we see wisdom now becoming a parent, bringing forth itself personified as a little child. So when it brings forth itself in an entirely different world, this wisdom is altogether different. The one in whom the child appears does not differ from what he was 1 second before. If he never went to college, he cannot think he did go to one, and what he knew in this world of Caesar, he knows no more. If he was all thumbs when he started to put a stamp on an envelope, he still remains all thumbs. He cannot enter into any conversations with the wisdom of this world beyond what he was when it happened to him. What happened to him will lead him into an entirely different world, and will appear foolishness in the eyes of the world. So he is no wiser in the eyes of the people of Caesar. And what he stepped into begins to expand rapidly, and he comes into all kinds of things that he cannot even discuss. He'll discuss it, but only a few will be able to understand him. What he is discussing is not only a wisdom beyond the wisdom of this world, but a power beyond the wildest dream of the power of this world. Pew, whip. Yes, I am speaking from experience. I endorse everything read so far fully and completely. Your identity will not change. When it unfolds in you, you are not different in the eyes of who you are, who I am is. Now, you and I would not, because electricity could be dangerous, cease to use it. We know that it's fatal if misused. You and I wouldn't stop driving a car because every year 50,000 Americans alone are killed on the highways through cars. How many hundreds of thousands are injured, and some very seriously? Many of them, but we still drive cars. So because the power we use on Caesar's level, if misused, becomes fatal and dangerous, we don't stop using it. Well, this power of which I speak is infinitely more dangerous. but we have to experiment. And you're not going to stop using it because it is dangerous. So tonight we come down to the one use of it where it cannot hurt you. It can't hurt you if you realize that the road to this power, the road to this wisdom of God is through the highest gift of the Spirit, which is love. I saw it coming. I saw that full sentence right in the front of my mind, all the way up, leading all the way up to it. You can't misuse the Spirit if you use it with love. Period. It can't be misused. Period. The golden rule. Period. Imagining lovingly. Period. Exclamation point. Times a dozen. Now, last Tuesday night, I told you the story of a friend of mine, and many of you were present. I think you can catch what I said even without going over the story itself in a vision which she shared with us, because he shared it with me and I shared it with you. He was told in a vision to use his imagination for another in the same way he uses it when he writes a story. Well, he's a professional writer and writes stories daily. Well, in this writing of a story on the level of Caesar, he has to play all the parts to make it natural. So when he makes a love scene or dramatizes a love scene, he has to make love to himself. As he said in his letter to me, slap himself in the face if the situation calls for it. So with this in mind, all in a dream, he thought he would try it, and he tried it with two that he mentioned and said, person after person, who the persons were I do not know. With his success in these, I hope many of you are friendly enough with him to be brought into his sphere to use you in this experiment, in the experiment. Now, he wrote me a letter, which I told you, but I didn't tell the end of it. I didn't realize what was written at the very end of the script was part of it. So he wrote me another letter, which I got a day after. Well, the story is this. In his experience, he left his body. By the way, to me, the last two lectures, Inner Conversations and what's Shared Experiences, that's it. Shared Experiences, the one before this, and Inner Conversation, the one before that. Inner Talking. Most practical, most profound, and if you haven't yet heard them 10 times each, go back, listen to them. Apparently, we're going to continue into our Trinity here in Praise of Wisdom because he's bringing it back up. So this is obviously going to be the third and most practical. And remember, when we say practical, when Neville says practical, we're talking about the use of the law, the use of applying it into your life pretty much quickly, easily, and seeing immediate results. So he wrote me another letter, which I got a day after. Well, the story is this. In his experience, he left his body and did what he would in a play and assumed the body of the one he wanted to help. He became not only another person, but another sex. For the one he wanted to help was a young woman. In this, her immediate need, the most pressing need, was a car. So after putting on the personality of the young woman, looking into the mirror, and pronounced herself beautiful, because he is not the man now, he is the young woman. Then he tripped out onto the street where the new car was waiting, got into the car and drove off, sitting in the form of a woman, this woman, with the wind blowing against his face. Then, after enjoying the ride, with a few little moments of discomfort when his high heels were not quite what he was accustomed to wearing, and so then he pulled over to the curb and parked the car. Got out of the body of the woman now, looked at the woman sitting behind the wheel, and she gave him this radiant, glorious smile. And that was it. That scene. The very next day, he goes to the restaurant where this young lady works, and she, in a moment of excitement, took him and his wife out to show them the car. It's the make of car, the color of car, the top was down. Everyone with a thing like this would like to know, well, how did she get it? Well, since she did not have a car, she has not been visiting her mother. Her mother, knowing the reason for the lack of visits was owning a car, sent her this unexpected gift of money. which she then put down on the new car, the make, the color, and the convertible, the top down. The mother said to my friend, because on Easter Day when they drove out to him and called on him and said it was really a very selfish gift, quote, because I hadn't seen her as often as I'd like to see her, I gave her the money that would permit her to get the means of seeing me more often, which is a car. And so they always justify these things on the level of Caesar. But it was on that level this whole thing started. He gave her what she did not have, either the strength or the faith to give herself. I didn't realize we were on a little trip down to Solana Beach to see Badfish, which they put on an amazing show down there doing all the Sublime tracks, for like an hour and a half. Wonderful, wonderful show. We stayed at a place in Carlsbad. It was pretty much completely 180-degree ocean view. Unbelievable. Got almost a free upgrade. The upgrade, you got to get the upgrade. And went to breakfast, and I could tell the waitress was in true automaton mode. Looked like she didn't want to be there. And she was, I don't know, mid-50s. I'm assuming, and she just operated like a true robot. And I was like, boy, something's not right. So we had many interactions, and we're going back and forth. And I finally just decided to imagine lovingly. But I didn't realize what I did was what he said in the last lecture, shared experiences. I imagined lovingly with her in mind to the point where I literally, as she walked away and was going through the door, I literally jumped on board and imagined how much of a fun day I'm having and how fulfilling all of this really is and what a great time it is right now. I did something like that. I can't remember the details. I do it quite often, so I don't remember everything. I kind of just give it away. So when I did that, we interacted with her again, and then we changed seats. We changed seats to be closer to the outside and be where the pool was, basically. And she came by again, and her demeanor was completely different. And I didn't realize that. I imagined lovingly a lot, but I didn't realize I actually jumped on board. I literally jumped on board and imagined while in her, which I've done a lot in the past, but I didn't imagine it was such akin to shared experiences the last lecture. And if you haven't heard it, he's referring to it now. You want to hear that. You want to hear it 50 times. It is really a good lecture. But I had done that on the weekend, and I did see the results, and I didn't realize how on board I was versus her telling me of the new day she was having. I was on board imagining it while with her. Very profound. I promise. Try it. You won't believe it. Now, because she has a car, she wants to disengage herself from a relationship which has been present in the interim from one who works in the same restaurant playing music. He's a musician. We're talking about bands. A man much older than she is, but he has been kind. He's been very considerate. He might have had ulterior motives that I do not know. He did propose marriage, but she declined and said, no, let us remain friends. But he would take her home every night when she worked late and take her to her apartment where she lives, and then would allow her to use the car in the course of the day. Then as it went on from weeks to months and months to months, he not only would take her home, but would suggest that he would come in and sit and rest for a while, which he did. And that became a habit to the point of even receiving an extra key that he may use the apartment in her absence. But now with her car and this new freedom, she doesn't want this to continue. So she said to my friend who was so successful in this, I don't want him hurt. I want him out of my life, but no hurt. He has been kind. He has been sweet. He has been generous. He's been everything that's been lovely. Only I want this to come to an end without the hurt of this person. My friend, being very human as we all are, for anyone wearing these garments are wearing garments of animals, may I tell you, Animal, vegetable, mineral, animal. That's what this is. This garment is an animal. Anyone in this world, no matter, blank space, the so-called holy man, when he tells you how holy he is, don't trust him through the door. Don't for one moment trust him even with an extra dollar, because while you wear these garments, you are subjected to the animal power. So he said in his letter to me, I love her in the same way you love your daughter, Vicky. Well, that's really doing something, because if anyone could take a total stranger who waits on his table and love her to the degree and with the same affection that I love my Vicky, I take my hat off to him, because I breathe with her. I take her every hurt to be my hurt. And if you are the father of a daughter among sons, forget the sons. But of the daughter, you know what I mean when it comes to a daughter, at least in my case. And so he said, when I heard of this relationship, it so annoyed me that I think I must have been in some strange way as you would be over Vicky, jealous of his monopolizing the time and the affection of this girl. So I thought I would do exactly what she asked of me to free her. Now remember, she wanted him out of her life without hurt. This was her desire. She appreciated his affection, his tenderness, his consideration, his generosity, all these things. But then, when he got into her body and became that being, he was playing two parts. He severed himself from his body and took possession of her personality, her mask, her blank space. And then when it came to severing this relationship, he felt a great love when he entered her body. He said, I can enter anyone's body with love. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. I just mentioned I did it with the waitress. It was pure love. There was no other motive. Period. No ulterior motive except for trying to turn that thing around. Turn upside down that frown into a smile. That was the only loving attitude I had in that moment, that I did that. I didn't do it. You know who did it through me. You. Those of you keeping good score at home, you know who's doing it. You're the one in which the imagination is. That's him. When you put him into motion. So I got into this body, and then came the request for complete freedom from this relationship. At that moment, instead of being kind, I treated him as you would scum. In other words, I even found myself using a physical gesture which I noticed one day she used in the restaurant when a man tried to be offensive and she turned up her nose with a flick of the hand. What that meant, I don't know. It suggested that she simply expelled him like something obnoxious, something that was offensive from her. It was a complete expulsion from her being by the turning of the nose up and some flick of the hand. I'm imagining it was like that. I'm guessing. In this, as this lady, for I'm not the man, I am this being, I did the same thing. Now, that's not what she wanted me to do, but I did it. I completely expelled him from my life, as though he were obnoxious. But now here came the horror of horrors. I couldn't get out of that. I am completely Beth. I can't get out of her. And for 6 hours, I struggled and wrestled with myself to the point where my wife said to me, "Who are you?" I was panicked. I was scared to death that I would find myself in the nut house thinking I'm a girl. No one would know what I did to produce this. And yet I couldn't get out of Beth. I am Beth. I am this young woman. Finally, how I do not know, but finally after 6 hours of labor and struggle, somehow I got out. How, I don't know. I was so exhausted I fell into a sleep and slept for 12 hours, 12 unbroken hours. But at the very end, it was worth it, for the most heavenly voice of love spoke to me, and it said, I have experienced my soul. I have restored my soul. I am now gathering my own in love, in beauty, and in joy. And that was it. So said he in a letter to me, having had this experience, Neville, I wish you would caution the class and tell them not at any time to exercise their imagination, save they exercise it in love, for they will be trapped as I was trapped. I'm telling you right now, man, you go dabbling with what he did without love, his first attempt, you're going to get what you give, and it can be very unpleasant. And you don't want to be stuck. This is Neville giving the advice through his associate, giving the advice through that experience. And where do you think that experience came from? The highest warning you could ever get. From him, within her, back to Neville, through that letter, back to us, through this book, through this lecture. It's the highest of warnings. It's the golden rule or it's nothing. If you can't apply the golden rule, you should not be paying attention to this video. Matter of fact, I don't think you would even be interested or even be here unless the golden rule was really that to you, the golden rule. It really is. I was talking to a good friend the other day, and we were commiserating slightly when he mentioned, he said, do you know how hard it is to find anybody who applies what they're doing with the golden rule? And I go, and my response was, you just realized that 99.99% are not living that rule. So that's what you got to weed through. And he goes, I can't even believe it. And I go, believe it. Whew. That's not the way it should be. That's not the way it could be. As we apply it, we influence. So I don't want to come out of that statement like it's a condemnation. When we apply it, when you apply it, the golden rule, it has more influence than you can even imagine, because other people pick up on it and they go, what did she do? Why did she do that? She didn't ask for anything in return? What? That's possible? You mean that's rewarding? It definitely has an impact. I don't want to be judgmental without giving that final understanding that it does have a positive. The positive can overcome big time. The golden rule can overcome any of that 99.99. They turn around. Believe it. Let's repeat this last sentence. So said he in a letter to me, having had this experience, Neville, I wish you would caution the class and tell them not at any time to exercise their imagination, save they exercise it in love, semicolon, for they will be trapped as I was trapped. I moved into it willingly and eagerly through love, but when once in it, something in, because she did not request this, when I brought about the divorce of the two, she requested the whole thing would be severed amicably in a loving manner, fully appreciated for what he had done at the time he played that part. But he will play no further part in my life. He moved by some other feeling of ill will, exercised ill will while in her body and became locked in it. So he was big enough and generous enough to share with me his own experience that I may share it with you and warn you that when you are going to exercise this enormous power for another, which is not on this level at all, do it in love, and you'll never go wrong. It's so altogether different as we're told in the 9th chapter of the book of Jeremiah. We read these words, let not the wise glory in his wisdom, let not the mighty glory in his might, let not the rich glory in his riches, but let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who practice kindness, justice, and righteousness, for in these I delight. Verse 23. Mm-mm-mm. Now he can't practice these save outside of a man. A man is his agent. I delight in men who practice kindness, justice, and righteousness. And every time that we do this, he delights in us and rejoices in us. And so the wisdom of this world is foolishness in the eyes of God. The might of this world is as nothing in the eyes of God. The riches of this world, that's nothing in the eyes of God. But you take these qualities, kindness, and you take justice, and you take righteousness, which is right thinking, and he delights in these, saith the Lord. Tonight you can take it in just as he took it. And he's promised to share with me one other things, and he must be frightfully busy taking others from what he said in his letter to me. When these fantastic results appear, I will tell you about them. They've already begun to appear. How intense he was in wearing the personality of others! Exclamation point. This is the only one I know of where, while in it, he acted in an ill will manner. But if he doesn't act, and now he knows he shouldn't, for he can be locked in it and trapped, completely trapped. Don't think this isn't happening in your world, in our world, excuse me. We've seen people, sometimes you see them walking down the street in a massive argument with nobody. You can tell they're really, really in a fervor about it, and you're like, what is happening there? Not that you want to go into that, but you know something's amiss. So by his own words, he said, it's so easy to get into any personality if I do it through love. It's like the sperm, for what is the sperm but the creative power of God? The sperm passes through the surface of the shell easily, and yet on the surface of the shell, there's no hole, no opening, either before or after fertilization. So he goes in like the sperm of God. For what is the sperm of God? Just Jesus Christ. It's called the seed. And your seed, who is Jesus Christ. Galatians 3:16, King James Version. So he speaks to your seed, your creative power. Your creative power is your own wonderful human imagination. And it's so easy to pass through the surface of the egg. Well, the egg in this case is this woman or the man, Eddie, or you, or me, or anyone that he selects to fructify, as it were, to fertilize with a new concept of self, where it hatches out in a way unknown to the rational mind. I did it with the waitress. Her demeanor was completely different. If he so loves you that he would like to give you a lift in this world, having exercised this power, he would find it very easy, if love moves him, to possess your personality. And while you then assumes for you as himself whatever he desired for you, if it is done in love, he will not be trapped in you, and he will move out of it, having fertilized it, and leave it to hatch out. It will hatch out. No power in the world can stop it. Okay, so my first, what was it? The movie, The Secret? When did it come out? 05, 04, somewhere in there? 2000s, the aught years. I discovered it. I was teaching at the Learning Light Foundation, teaching all these metaphysical classes. And with my teacher, we were going there at the same time, as a matter of fact. Wait, let me think. This would have been in the previous time I went and taught there. Somewhere in the 90s, maybe even whenever that movie came out. Whenever that movie came out, it was that long ago, because there was a lot of talk about it. And the lady who was running the Learning Life Foundation, I found myself in the bookstore where I used to give classes for 2 hours in the evening. Then I'd make us take a break and go to the bookstore, and hopefully they'd buy some stuff from the bookstore. I kind of was doing a live commercial for the bookstore to let them peruse the shelves and whatever. So the lady running the organization, the Learning Life Foundation, she was talking about this whole concept about being on board the other person and looking back at you, at you from their perspective. And I already knew this from the Seth material. So I was already foundationally set in my head about how that worked. But what happened was we had new neighbors move in, and I was in my backyard, and obviously they were in theirs. The man it was a couple, and great people, and we didn't know each other yet, but I was saying something to a friend in my backyard about not knowing how to speak Spanish, which I can understand it barely, but I definitely I cannot speak it yet. So I heard him say dummy in Spanish or stupid in Spanish, and I knew what it meant. And I thought to myself, oh man, I haven't even met these people, and here this guy's, he's already throwing out violence, and I had just then learned this concept. So within a couple days, what I did was, because I was teaching it in class with a stick figure, I was like, if you want to have that person change their attitude towards you, this stick figure to that stick figure, and this is you, and you want them to be changed, you have to go over there and pretend you're them and say to you, I love you. I think you're amazing. And so this was the first time I ever consciously tried it. So I tried it, I did it, and then I was coming home one day, and then at the time I was still in my contracting business, so I pulled my work truck in the driveway, and I got out, and they had just had a new baby, so they had 2 babies over time, but they had their first baby, and the baby was out in the grass walking around, and I got out, and this pure sense of love overwhelmed me. It was really, literally, fully just like a blossom love power overtook my feeling. When I saw the kid, I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. This is just a beautiful moment. So I felt the effect come back to me because I tried it. I didn't mention that part, but I forget when I tried it, if I did it while I was sleeping or falling asleep or waking up, or if I did it while I was working. Sometime I did it. I did that image where I consciously took in my mind and said, I love you to me from him, the neighbor. And then when I saw the effect when I got out of my car that day, and this overwhelming loving feeling just overtook the entire moment. I mean, it expanded like completely. And then at that moment, which was so long ago, I knew it worked. And do you think I went and tried and practiced every day? I was so high on it working once, I didn't dig deeper. I don't know. I think that movie was The Secret. I believe it was. Some other law of attraction comes to mind, but it was The Secret, I believe. Because before I saw the movie, the lady at the Learning Life Foundation was describing it and describing that whole thing. And then I applied it, and then I saw the effect, and then I didn't try it for years. Until Ho'oponopono, then it was game on. It was a whole different level of a playing field at that time. But that's my story about how I first came across it. And whenever the movie came out, that's about when it happened, whenever that year was. Forget. Continuing, this is the power of which I speak, that is Christ Jesus. That was my first taste. Well, maybe, yeah. My first fully conscious taste. There's no power on earth comparable to it. There's nothing here. Talk about nuclear energy. And by the way, to finish that story, our relationship as neighbors grew and grew and grew. He became a flight marshal. His wife worked for, I believe, some 3-letter agency. She used to work in customs down at the port of Long Beach. And he was a flight marshal. So he used to go to Germany all the time. He'd bring back beers, and we'd celebrate 4th of July together. It was a great relationship from then on until they moved. It seems everybody who moves into that house has 2 kids and then they move. We've seen a lot of couples do that right next door. But became a very wonderful relationship. They came to my first triathlon that I did down there in Long Beach. It was fun. They're great neighbors, great people. And I doubt they'll ever come across this video, but if they do, it was great. Vince and Jill. Yeah, Vince and Jill, great people. Wonderful. Okay, back to it. This is the power of which I speak, that is Christ Jesus. There's no power on earth comparable to it. There's nothing here. Talk about nuclear energy, talk of this power and that power. There's nothing comparable to this. Talk of wisdom in this world? No. If you take the catalog of wisdom and put it against those that he designated in Scripture, the 12th chapter of the book of 1 Corinthians, and he mentions all the states as they come down from on high, verse 28. The first is the apostle, and the second is the prophet, and the third the teacher, the fourth the worker of miracles, the fifth the healer. He comes all the way down, the administrator, and the last is the speaker of many tongues, not glossolalia that people speak of today. The scholars of the world, the most brilliant minds of the world, comes under the heading of many tongues. And that's the 8th segment. So you, if the child is born and you stand in the presence of the risen Christ and you are sent, as you will be sent, if you stand in his presence, you are automatically sent. Doesn't mean that you are any wiser than you were before. It only means that you are now sent. And you stand at the top with an enormous power at your command, unknown to those who speak in many tongues. You can't enter their sphere. You do not know now, but all that you know now is something beyond what they know now. And may I tell you, to play the part now, having shut out all these other levels, they are contained within you. But you purposely had to shut them out when you come into the world at this moment in time to be born from above. They all return because the law is contained in the one above it, and the two contained in the one above it, and the three contained in the one above it, and finally, all are contained in the apostle. But he has to shut out everything below him to play this part. So he comes into the world, all these within him, all contained, but he has to shut them out. I only know when I stood in the class with Abdullah, I knew not one word of Hebrew, but not one word. When I was criticized, or he was criticized for bringing me to the blackboard to instruct this class in Hebrew, I'd only been there a few months, and this one who spoke Hebrew and taught Hebrew, and then he criticized Abdullah for taking up his time with taking this novice at the blackboard to describe Hebrew. Abdullah said, "You do not know who he is. Neither does he remember who he is. If you only knew who he was, you would sit right now at his feet, but you don't know who he is. Neither does he remember who he is." Then 6 months later, I was instructing this man who taught Hebrew. It came back. It came from the depths of my soul, but then shut up once more. That was not the part I had to play. The part I had to play here, and came to play here, is simply to tell the story of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ being your own wonderful human imagination. When it begins to stir, and really stirs, it's a power beyond the wildest dream of man. No man on earth knows its power. If you take someone and take off your own being, what person in this world would believe you could disengage yourself from your own being and assume the personality of another? I did it for a flash with the waitress. And while you are now one with that personality, move into a car waiting for you on the curb and get into the car dressed in a skirt and wearing the personality of a girl, while you formerly were a man, and drive that with the wind against your hair and pull the car to the curb and then get out of that personality and look at it from the sidewalk and wave at it and see this glorious smile on her face. To find the very next day she has that car, that make, that color, and it's a convertible and the top is down. Question mark. Do you know of any power on the earth like it? There is no power in this world comparable to it. Yes, that's what we're talking about here. Yet it remains a foolish power in the eyes of the wise. So you're told that to the Jew, meaning not a person of a certain race, it means a certain state of mind. It's a stumbling block that they can't grasp it. And to the Greek, meaning not that you were born in Greece, but to those who are called wise people, the intellectuals of the world, it's all foolishness. 1 Corinthians 1:23. He just defined a lot right there. The Greek, the Jew are symbols. To the Jew, meaning not a person of a certain race, it means a certain state of mind. It's a stumbling block. They can't grasp it. And to the Greek, meaning not that you were born in Greece, but to those who are called wise people, the intellectuals of the world, it's all foolishness. 1 Corinthians 1:23. So they would not even listen, far less try it. So they wouldn't even try it. They are the giants of the world. They're all honored. So they wear all over their breasts the honors. Blank space. But they come to the very bottom of the list, those designated in the 12th chapter of 1 Corinthians. They are the ones who are the great interpreters of the world, the great translators of the world. They are the great scholars of the world, and so erudite that they can tell you exactly what it meant originally and give you wonderful things, and they're all part of the structure. For without them to give to one who is singled out for a purpose, he wouldn't know the ancient script in its present form, which language he didn't speak when he was here at a certain moment in time. And so they gave it to him in a language that now he's assumed to tell the story of Christ. Got to put my Abdullah note on the previous page for the fun of it. So I say to you, listen to him carefully and use it only lovingly. For if you don't, you not only will be trapped. I wonder how many people tonight are in the institutions of the world telling others that they are Napoleon, that they are this, that, or the other, who slipped into these personalities and became trapped. You don't want to mess with this power like that. No ill will, only lovingly. Imagine lovingly. Only. They did not slip in with love, or if they did, while they were in it, they took on the personality of ill will, as one of Napoleon would. You can see how powerful every idle thought you have is. You must change your inner talking. 2 lectures ago, shared experiences, the last lecture. You must change your inner talking. Any negative ill will thoughts are very destructive. You could be stuck in them in your own self. He was simply, in one of his letters, when he wrote to his girlfriend back in Paris, Josephine, and said, I lost 1,200 men today, no one of importance. Napoleon. "1,200 men, but no one of importance!" Exclamation point. Well, that attitude, usurping that personality, that certainly wouldn't be as you felt it and became lost in it. You would have nothing but ill will. And you'd be trapped in it. And they'd put you into a little nut house because you being John Brown, are telling the people of the world that you are Napoleon. So how many are now in these states completely lost and trapped and can't get out? Now, let's let that rhetoric seep in. But now let's return to the book, the Magus of Strovolos, Daskalos, the first book on the first greatest healer I ever discovered. I think my teacher gave me the book and I read it, and that was when I knew I wasn't alone. He was the kind of healer. I don't know if he's still alive. Again, I mentioned before, I met one of his students at a psychic fair I was in, and we talked for hours. So I know I validated his existence through her because the books are so fantastic. You really, for early metaphysical learnings in the beginning of the 90s, like this is 1993 to me. I started in September of 91. This is about 93. To read those books and see this healer do his magic is profound. When you read those pages, you're like, what? How? But you realize he was literally going after. So this last sentence. So how many are now in these states completely lost and trapped and can't get out? Daskalos was the kind of healer that would go and fetch. Basically Moses. Daskalos is Moses. He would draw out from those trapped places. And people that passed out of this life before their next life or their recurrence on the wheel, he would get them unstuck. He has amazing descriptions of how he did this work. While he's wearing the garment. Fascinating works. I just sold one or two of his books recently. I don't like to own every book throughout all of time, but I still have the original one. I just saw that book. There was like three books. I think I've sold part 2 and part 3. I think I have now the Magus of Strovolos. It will be so fantastic you won't believe what you're reading. But that's the kind of work he did or is doing. But I ask you to continue. Would you give up the use of electricity because the misuse is dangerous? Would you give up flying in a plane because there are occasional crashes and all go down? Well, even a ship at sea may be safer, but they go down and hundreds are lost. And so would you give up this pleasure of traveling across oceans or flying across oceans, blank space, sitting in a car because there are accidents and because something could go wrong today with the electrical setup and the house could burn down? But if you rebuild the house because one burnt from a short circuit and you aren't going to give it up, you're going to put it back again and hope you'll do a better job the next time. Better insulation or something. Well, the same thing is true of this. So he shared with us again his own experience, and that is he can get into any personality just as easily as anything in the world, like going through the door. It's so easy for him to assume your personality. But he knows now when you request something in love, he must not alter it. He must, if he does take your case and do it, he'll do it. That's called in the state the miracle worker. It's very high in the rankage. You read it in the 12th chapter. You'll see it. It's the 4th one, very high. 1 Corinthians 12:10. It doesn't mean he can't teach it, for the teacher is the 3rd. It doesn't mean he can't prophesy your tomorrow because he did it with Beth. He inwardly knew she was going to get that car because she had the car. So the prophet is there too, and the apostle. He simply awaits the moment when he stands before the risen Christ. No one is in line for the apostolic succession by any putting on of physical hands. So when certain groups of this world claim that they are, from Peter down, where they got into closed doors and voted in the same way that we vote here for president, and they call themselves the apostolic succession, forget it! Exclamation point. No one is sent out by the risen Christ who does not first stand in his presence. When you stand in his presence, the answer to the question is always love. Just remember that. That's it. That's the only thing you have to remember. Period. What's the greatest thing in the world? For you stand in the presence of infinite love, and he asks you, excuse me, Neville, sorry, what is the greatest thing in the world? And you will answer, love. He will embrace you, and you will fuse with the body of love, an infinite body of love. And by his side is the personification of infinite power. You will know, you will exercise power to the degree that you love, for there's nothing greater than love. Love is the greatest, but here is power, the personification of infinite might sitting right there. But here, standing before you, now you are one with him and you're sent out to act. But you act only in love. Because if you act in love, you are never trapped. Never trapped. If you act not in love, you run the risk of being trapped. He said, I was scared to death that I'd be found in some nut house thinking that I am a girl. And he meant it, every word of it. So he's big enough, in spite of his position in the professional field, to share with us this. And I want to thank him for it. And I want to thank you for coming and also caution you when you go out to test it. And if you test it, see that you use only love when you exercise this power. The story is given to us, do unto others what you would have them do unto you. Can't go wrong. Would I want it done to me? No. Well then, don't do it unto you. You can't go wrong if that is your mark by which you exercise this power. Well, when a man can sit here tonight and tell me that he finds it so easy, the easiest thing in the world, to pass through the surface of a being and occupy his personality, that man is so high in the levels. For I can say to you, yes, this presence has been born in him. Completely born in him. And so wisdom is justified by her children. Wisdom is the personification of God's might and power and wisdom that is called Christ Jesus. For Christ Jesus brings forth in us himself, symbolized as a child. That has been brought forth in him. And so the child has been brought forth, so the wisdom is there and the power is there. At the present moment, he's now exercising the miracle power. But it doesn't mean when you exercise one, you can't exercise the others. Because the highest has been brought forth in him. If he hasn't yet stood in the presence of the risen Christ, it doesn't matter. He still can prophesy what's going to happen. Therefore, he's standing on the second level. He can teach it. That's the third level. They're all contained one within the other, and you'll find them all contained within the apostle, and he is contained within Christ Jesus. So he sent him out from himself. So tonight, you take it seriously. And don't for one moment think anything is impossible to this power. This work is so juicy. I have to include this in the trio of lectures instead of the two that I mentioned. This is the third and the capstone, of course. But this is so juicy, I haven't even been drinking any water because it's just profound. Man, there's nothing impossible to the power. So whatever is asked of you, accept it and do it in love. Experiment, exclamation point. You won't hurt yourself and you won't hurt the other if you do it in love. Expect no return as to pay. Expect nothing but the success of what you do. Don't do it for one nickel. Don't do it for anything in this world. Just do it for the joy of doing it. For what was his delight? He said, my delight, I delight in kindness, in justice, in righteousness, In these things I delight. So if you are rich, don't joy and glory in your riches. That's nothing compared to what really is in store for you. That's nothing to what really is in store for you. For all the riches in the world would be as nothing to what's really in store for you. He said, the earth is mine and the fullness thereof. The cattle on 1,000 hills are mine. Were I hungry, I wouldn't tell you. I would slay and eat. Psalms 50, 10, and 12. It's all mine. So this is nothing. So this is as nothing compared to what has already been prepared for those who awaken into the new age. So you take this. It belongs to the new age. What he did doesn't belong to this world. You see it exercised in this world. For in this statement, he said, I do this in the earth, in that ninth chapter of Jeremiah, verse 24. He uses that little phrase wisely. In the earth, I do it that you may see, but it belongs to a new age, an entirely different world. So while we are here, we exercise and simply prove this power and prove this wisdom. It doesn't make sense. The average person tonight who is considered a brilliant mind, if he sat here at the end, if he's a cultured person, he wouldn't scream while I'm talking, but when he got out of the place, he'd say, why, that's a nut house. I mean, that would be the impression of those who are brilliant in mind. It's a nut house. And yet the people who are here are well-dressed and they seem intelligent. And you mean the same people come all the time? They'd ask 1,000 questions about this because the wisdom of this world is foolishness in the eyes of God. But vice versa. The wisdom of God is foolishness in the eyes of man. You read it carefully in the 1 Corinthians, the very first chapter. He said, when I came, having been exposed to the risen Christ, I came determined to know nothing but Christ and him crucified. 2:2. And he calls it the cross of Christ, which was the power of God. Well, the cross of Christ is the power of God, question mark? It doesn't make sense. All of a sudden, it is in you. This is the cross. You discover something moving in you, and you can just disengage from this and put it upon another cross and give yourself to that cross. Now listen to these words. No one takes away my life. I lay it down myself. I have the right to lay it down, and I have the right to receive it again. John 10:18. So let no one take away my life. So he actually put his life out. To become someone else is to extinguish oneself, is it not? In effect, to die. He died and yet not truly died. That's what we are told. You will die, but not really die. Genesis 3:3 and 4. So he died, he gave up his personality and took upon himself another. He knows exactly what that 10th chapter of John means now. No one takes away my life if I lay it down myself. I lay it down myself. No one takes my... He knows exactly what that 10th chapter of John means now, no one takes away my life, I lay it down myself. He did. He deliberately put his personality aside and assumed the personality of another. And having done that, he died. He died to his personality and lived to another. While he lived to the other, he gave it gifts and gave it gifts. The ultimate sacrifice. I'm not trying to beat my drum, but I just want to show you in reality what experiencing it felt like. I did it for the waitress, but I had no I had no qualm of sacrificing the self that believed she was having a bad day. When I went on board and it felt exuberant about the day, then I came back, it wasn't the same return. It wasn't the same person. I laid down that life. Then I gave this life. I laid down that life. I sacrificed that life to become a new life in her mindset. Then when I returned, it wasn't the same life. It can't be the same life. Her life is new. My life is new. They're completely different. The old man died to the wayside. But the one who does all things is infinite love. So the moment he departed from the gift of giving, loving things, and exercised intellectual ill will, he was trapped and couldn't get out and struggled for 6 hours. You know what it would be? That you can't get out of a personality that is a female body and yet you are a male? What doctor in this world would believe it? I am surrounded in my little island of Barbados with doctors. I have doctors all over this country too, who are relatives by marriage, and not one of them. My brother graduated a psychiatrist, practiced with the mental institution in Barbados for 15 years. Do you think he would believe it? He wouldn't dream of this story tonight, that someone could get out in an act of service and then while in it be moved by some little ill will towards one he thought had monopolized this one's life, and then by acting in that manner be trapped. Could he believe it? So he had his 6 years at McGill University in Montreal and 2 years at a university in London in tropical diseases, 8 years in the great universities practiced. He's a year my senior, all of his life in medicine, and yet he wouldn't for 1 second believe it. He would treat anyone of that nature as the whole vast world treats the snake pit. And that's what it is. But he's big enough, and I thank him from the bottom of my soul for sharing with us his experience, that he may stop us. If we have any hesitation, don't you do it. Don't enter into the chamber of the other and do anything for them if within that chamber what you have to do is going to it in any way arouse ill will, for you may be trapped. Don't mess with it. If you're trapped, how are you going to explain to any man in the world of Caesar that will satisfy their reason that you are really someone other than what you are pretending that you are? You now are saying that you are a girl, and yet your body reveals you to be a man, and so they'll put you away for safekeeping. Oh, back in the day, like in these times, the old joke was the white truck is coming for you, or the guys in white coats are coming for you, because in the older movies, they'd have a white truck pull up. It was the ones who were going to put you away, and they put a straitjacket on you and put you in that white truck, and they all got white coats on, and they're going to haul you to the nut house. Oh, man. There used to be very large institutions in times of old for the people that were not understood on this level. So here we're dealing with a power unknown to mortal man. We're dealing with a wisdom unknown to mortal man. There are other stories he told me, and it's too late to even begin to tell them, all in conflict with human wisdom, but much too long to go into. But I have his permission to tell them when the mood possesses me to tell them, but it's too late now. All based upon simply possessing the personality of another and doing for them what they haven't the faith to do for themselves. And we're about to go into the silence. What we're talking about here is being Moses. Think of yourself as Moses. We're going to go into the silence. Here's our practice. Here's our experiment. We're going to be Moses. To be Moses is to draw out. So you're going to go on board of your loving friend, who you are imagining loving for, your spouse, your friend, your daughter, your mother, whatever. Go on board and imagine lovingly whatever it is. If it's experiencing a new opportunity in work, if it's experiencing a new relationship, if it's experiencing new health, keep it on the up, obviously. You're going to go into the silence, you're going to imagine being them and feeling the exuberance and the enthusiasm of being healthy if that's the goal. You're going to feel the exuberance and the enthusiasm of the new opportunity if that's the new goal of work or pay. You're going to go on there, you're going to go on board and feel the exuberance and the enthusiasm of that was the wealth of the health, the wealth, and the love. The exuberance and the enthusiasm of the love, being in love. Again. Okay. And as you come to the end of that, we're going to breathe in. We're going to get at least 3 good inhales. And then you're going to snap that pitcher on the 3rd inhalation at the top, at the apex. Snap that pitcher. It's going into the negative. Okay, so now let us go into the silence. Let's build up that breathing cadence. Here we go. I kind of lightened my eyelids when I did it, and that light came in. Just a white light came in there. Question. Inaudible. Homework's 2 minutes of that. Get that breathing at the end. Get that inhalation. Question inaudible. Answer Neville. Last Tuesday night, we made a very great point of the fact that he said that he retained his own mind. He thought from his mind through their personality, through their mask. So that center, no one on the outside would, blank space, because they can't see that center. That center is God. That mind that was detached and then assumed the state, the personality, the mask. But if he's playing the personality of a woman and talking of a woman and how he feels dressed as a woman, who's going to believe that it is not a distorted mind and that it should be really put away? So the mind was locked in a state, and he talked about the state in which he was locked. He was doing for the state what the state couldn't do for itself. For the occupant of that state didn't have the faith to do it. It had no money and would think only in terms of earning enough tips and salary or gather together that it would take to buy the car. What it would take. Gather together what it would take. He wasn't concerned about how she had the money. Never be concerned about that. He went to the end, got into the car. It's her car. He got into that car as the woman and drove the car as the woman driving the car, and felt the whole thrill of possession. It's a new car. She said to him today, I can't get it to go fast enough. It's a new car. You shouldn't work it that fast so soon. And so her complaint, it isn't going fast enough. Her complaint is, it isn't going fast enough. Well, you shouldn't burn it up in the beginning. I'm not an owner of a car, Neville, but I'm told you should simply ease it until it takes on, well, blank space. Yeah, Neville didn't drive, which is great. The concept is amazing. And so he did for her what she couldn't do for herself. But he never lost his identity. Had he lost his identity, he would not have known he was in a body other than his own. But he struggled to get out of that body. He couldn't get out of it, although he knew he was in something that was not his own. I've said that time and time again. You never lose your own identity. You're lost in a state and you don't want to continue that state, but you know you're not the state. You did for the state that you wanted. You did for the state what you wanted to do for it. But you, the occupant, that sense of I-ness never changes. Question, on Tuesday evening, you emphasized the whole thing had taken place within a dream, a vision, and he had not as yet exercised it in the waking state. I take it that this story, though, is a waking state. Answer, Neville. He wrote me a letter which I received 2 days after I told the story here. I told it Tuesday night. He said, now, to bring this story up to date, it was on Thursday that I had the experience. On Friday, I went to the restaurant where he goes almost every day. So she was so excited with her new purchase, she took the two of them right out and showed them the new car, the new model, same color, the same convertible. She took the letter, which I did not interpret correctly. At the bottom of the letter, in her own bold script, she wrote to me, but she didn't say, Dear Neville. She just simply wrote it. She said, when they came to dinner tonight, I showed them my new car, Beth. Well, I didn't know it was not. He typed his letter to me and signed it in his own script, but here came an entirely different script at the bottom in pencil. When they came to dinner tonight, I showed them my new car. Well, that could have been an imaginal showing. It wasn't explained beyond that. It could have been that she had imagined she showed them, but I couldn't tell from the platform. I was waiting for confirmation. So to bring it up to date, he wrote me a letter saying, now I must tell you, when we went to dinner on Friday night before we came here, when I brought you the letter, she met us in such an excited manner that she took us out and showed us the new car. It was the same color, the same make, and the top was down. So that really meant that was a fact now in the world of Caesar, not only in the world beyond this or above this. Question, the second thing, getting locked in. Answer, that was consciously done. That was consciously done. The getting of the car was in the dream. Question, well, he emphasized that there was so much love involved in this in the first place, as well as in this one. Is it possible that the personality of the girl took over? Answer, no, no, no. Because she made it very, very clear. She didn't want him hurt. No, he confessed in his letter to me, which I brought up earlier, it could be that he loves her as I love Vicky. He could resent an older man monopolizing her time. And when it comes to divorcing this situation and separating it, then at the thought of blank space would come into it, and all of a sudden he would just do what he saw her do when one man tried to be offensive, and she turned up her nose and with the flick of her hand simply brushed him off as though he was the most obnoxious thing in the world and sneezed him out of her life, as it were. I imagine it was that. So he found himself repeating that same gesture in getting rid of this acquaintance. The acquaintance she didn't want to hurt. Wanted no hurt at all. She didn't ask that. She only asked to be free without hurt to the other. He was big enough to confess it was his own limitation and not hers that did it. Because it was not her desire that he was expressing. He was bringing in his own little peek into the picture. P-I-Q-E, peek. On this level, we're all very human, extremely human. And quite often we do it with the one we love most. We'd rather cut our hands off, yet we did it anyway. But in this case, it's simply something that worked in him over the months when he discovered that he was offering his car, taking her home, finally moving into the house. He gave him a key to use it when she wasn't there. And in his eyes, that was not something that he should do. He wanted her free from this present job, gave her more money on a better job so she can continue in her studies as a singer. She wants to be a singer. She's a beautiful girl. She's a beautiful girl, perfectly beautiful girl. She can't be a singer if she's going to live this sort of life and stay up all night just to express some satisfaction or some thanks for one who just transported her home. So he wants her disentangled from that kind of a job to make more money so she can pursue her studies as a singer. But if he will share with us, which he has, he's been most generous, blank space. And so he will tell me nothing that I will not tell you. because he knows I can't keep it quiet. So I've asked him to please. Neville can't keep it quiet. I can't imagine someone telling, Neville, don't repeat this. Especially a testimonial. I can't keep it quiet. He knows I can't keep it quiet. So I've asked him to please forgive me for my outspokenness because I've got to tell you as fast as it is told to me. For I am only here to tell the story of Jesus Christ. I have no other story to tell. I know nothing of the world of scholars, nothing. That is something that is part of blank space. When I tell you that I know vividly of a world, a fabulous place, you may smile, but I haven't gone into any home or homes or any estate or estates comparable to the estate that I gave up long ago. When I speak of a full complement of servants, I mean a full complement of servants. That's his home on Barbados, by the way. When I speak of secretaries and I speak of all that goes into glamorous living, I recall it vividly. And I came into extreme poverty, for nothing is poorer in this world than to be in the little island of Barbados wearing a white skin. But nothing. If I came into Barbados wearing a black skin, it would not be the limitation of coming in wearing a white skin. And I remember vividly this enormous estate. My secretaries, not just a secretary, and there were such lusciousness and such abundance that my life was almost dead. It was a voluntary act on my part to give it up and then assume complete poverty. When he moved to the United States and became a dancer, that's what he's referring to. That's in Scripture too. Though he was rich, he became poor, that by his poverty you may be rich. 2 Corinthians 8:9. That's the story. So today, the riches I possess in spirit, well, you can't compare the two. What I gave up to what I possess in spirit. Though I have nothing in the world's, I have money, I don't get it. They never send it to me, so I just as well may not have it. He had a lot of stocks, if I remember correctly. So they tell me what it's worth, so I know what it's worth, but it doesn't pay. So they say, your stocks are worth so much. Excuse me, Neville. Your stocks are worth so much. It's wonderful to know they're worth so much, but where are the dividends? Whoa. Oh, they're in control. It's 1965. Oh, they're in control. They're plowing them in. Well, they don't plow them to me. And so they have my stock. It's worth so much, a fantastic amount, but it doesn't pay me dividends. So I said to them, you didn't declare any, ? Oh, yes, we made money, lots of money. Well, where is the money? Oh, we're expanding for the next generation. By then, I will simply be in my other sphere. Neville. Question. One final point on this example. Did the girl achieve her freedom after this experience? Oh, duh, we didn't even clarify all that, did we? I'm sure she did. Well, here we go. Answer, Neville. Well, she's still on the job. She has the car. That means, did she suddenly jump up and got another job? No. Question, did she get freed from this individual? Answer, well, that I don't know. I mean, after all, let's not rush it. This thing happened last Friday. It's very exciting. It's very dramatic and exciting, really. She has the new car. She was made a request since then to be free. She has made a request since then to be free. She has the new car. He has taken it under consideration. So she must have talked to this man and told him. He has granted that freedom in his imagination, which is the only way to grant it, and then let it now break the egg and without injury to anyone. I've got to go now, one more and I'll go. Neville's never said he had to go at the end of a lecture, but this is kind of cool. Question. He did this, though, with ill will. Now, when he realized this, should he turn that aside now? Answer. My dear, let's not go into all these things. He confessed to me something which he asked me to please share with you and caution you not to do it as he did. I think that's the most generous thing that one can do. And so because of that, because tonight, if I had not taken him at his word and shared with you how he was trapped, someone here may want another man who was already happily married and then put herself into his body or it may be or it may be one of woman and put herself into her body, and then treat the mate like scum, which neither wants that, and find himself shut in. So I'm warning you, when you exercise your imagination, Neville's saying, I'm warning you. So I'm warning you, when you exercise your imagination, exercise it only lovingly on behalf of another. Whenever you do that, you've done the right thing. Good night. Man, if it gets better, I can't believe it. Oh, wow. In Praise of Wisdom, April 23rd, 1965. I'm going to put this little trio together as a playlist. You'll see it in the community page. I'll see you soon.